I have the keys to a 1998 Porsche 911 Turbo S. I'm going to drive it and give you my impressions.
Be sure to log into your YouTube account, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video.
This 1998 911 Turbo S is a museum piece. No, really. It's owned by the Porsche Museum, one of just 345 made by the exclusive department as a final send-off of the 993 generation 911, the last of the air-cooled line. It was powerful, comfortable, fast, and represented all that Porsche had achieved up to that point. Based on the 911 Turbo, the Turbo S had many incremental improvements to make it the ultimate air-cooled 911. As I said, this is just one of 345 993 Turbo S's ever made. It's very rare and very valuable. I'd bet most of them are tucked away in collections, but the Porsche Museum handed this one off to dozens of journalists to drive on picturesque back roads in Germany. Let's put that into perspective. One with 22,000 miles sold at RM Sotheby's Arizona auction in 2023 for $549,500. The online auction platform P-Car Market had one with just 2,000 miles that sold for $695,500. With figures like these in mind, I was more apprehensive about driving it than the other 911s Porsche allowed us to drive. The Turbo S, of course, has more power than the Turbo, 444 horsepower compared to 402. If you lived in the US and bought one, it would have had 424 horsepower. The Turbo S is 15 millimeters lower than the Turbo, has carbon fiber strut tower braces, yellow brake calipers, and an aero package with brake cooling ducts in the front bumper cover. You can immediately spot a Turbo S if it has the air scoops in the rear fenders, and same with the circular quad exhaust tips, replacing the dual ovals of the Turbo. The Turbo S also came standard with the full leather interior, which in this car is a beautiful, bright red.
All right, this is our 1 mile review of a 1998 Porsche 911 Turbo S, the final hurrah for the 993 generation air-cooled 911. You can also probably call it the final hurrah for the air-cooled 911. So something to note about these cars is they have more power than a 911 Turbo. They often come with just more optional equipment, including, looks like this leather interior, which I'm not sure if it's standard. Pull away, and it's a very nice, easy clutch, and that's something I always like to figure out on a new car. A nice, easy clutch when pulling away tends to signify that the car is going to be a fairly easy, friendly car to drive. Now, with 450 horsepower, turbocharged horsepower from a 3.6 liter, now I'm going to focus on my clutch action here. With 450 horsepower, it might be friendly at low speeds, but once you dip into the turbocharged torque and power band, it might not be. Might be a significantly unfriendly car. So right off the bat, leather wheel feels good in my hands. It's a fairly thin-rimmed wheel compared to today's standards, but it feels nice in my hands. These seats have just enough bolstering to make you feel good, but not so. It's not a bucket seat here, so it's not going to hold you in on a track day. And I should mention right now we have this navigation system on because we are driving this as part of the Porsche Heritage driving experience in the Palatine region of Germany. So we're on some twisty back roads experiencing the culture and using the cars to transport us to those cultural sites. So nice smooth engine. Those 3.6 liter turbocharged flat sixes are jewels. All right, 4,000 RPM. Oh yeah, this thing has power. The sound of the car, classic air-cooled sound. When you get onto the, you can hear some of those turbo noises a little bit, but you hear a lot of motor inside the cabin. Shifting is fairly easy. Heel towing is even easier. know, the rev match. Yeah, that's something about these air-cooled engines, is that they rev so freely. They're very rev-happy cars. So rev matching downshifts, quick stab of the throttle, and release the clutch and you're in gear. It's very nice. Yeah, so these roads that we're on right now are much less twisty than pretty much the past hour of roads my co-driver drove. So hopefully as we turn on to this road coming up here, that changes a little bit. So 911 turbo, 993 generation is all-wheel drive, and the Turbo S is no different. So all-wheel drive, it has the wide body to stuff more tire for all that horsepower. What's nice about these 993 turbos and Turbo S's is that they're a 3.6 liter turbocharged engine, which is that's a fairly large engine for a flat six. You know, Porsche only builds them up to 4 liters even nowadays. So even though there's turbo lag, there's also still enough displacement and torque down low to where you're not feeling like you need to upshift immediately. Yeah, definitely a little breathless, but around 3,000 RPM or so, you feel the turbo starting to build in, and they're not fully on until a little bit later. Give him a little bit more room so I can get on the gas in second gear a little bit. Yeah, just so solid feeling, these cars. So the interior, this one is optioned out. Tons of leather covering everything. This is basically a car built by Porsche exclusive back in the day, before they were a very big operation like they are right now. So if you had a Turbo S or, you know, a slant nose flat bow turbo, like that was Porsche exclusive back then, which is very similar to how they do things nowadays with cars like the Sport Classic and the other heritage design models that aren't just trim packages, but seem to have some sort of thing like the intakeless rear fenders of the Sport Classic that Porsche exclusive is only a part of Porsche can do for you in these low volume cars. That is a fast car. All right, I'm gonna hit the brakes a little hard, but not super hard. Fairly feel some brakes. So we haven't been hitting these turns to really feel out the suspension, but you know, very nice steering. It's exactly what you would think in an air-cooled 911. It is power assisted. We do have all-wheel drive, so it's probably a touch less feelsome than maybe a rear-wheel drive Carrera, but really, really nice steering. Better than most cars, and I would say most Porsches nowadays when it comes to steering feel. Yeah, gas pedal is super predictable. The engine is a very nice one to drive. Easy to downshift, which I just did there. I love that. Yeah, again, what I can tell right now is that the guys in the 2.2 liter 911S on skinny tires are probably having more fun. I can already tell this 993 Turbo S, a lot like today's GT cars. It's a lot of car, a lot of power to use on the street, unless it's a perfectly clear road. And even then, you know, it's a lot of power. And I'm finding that I really just want to let loose and pass everybody and really drive this car hard, which I can't do today. And, you know, for most cases when you're driving a car, you're going to be in a situation where you can't let it all the way loose. So that's something to keep in mind if you're buying a Turbo S like this. But I should also note that most people buying a 993 Turbo S like this probably aren't going to be driving it a lot. So if it's one of those really nice special occasion cars, which it is, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about things like that. Yeah, you can feel front end a little bit light, but the rear hooks up real well. You can feel that slight bit of understeer going into a tight corner like that. But I'm sure if we were on the brakes a little harder going in and trailing off, and the car would do its thing and be a more willing dance partner. So at this point, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to rate the car while I'm driving, because I'm not quite sure how much time I'll have once we stop for the driver switch. So for car show, man, it's either a 9.5 or a 10, and 10 almost based purely on the rarity, because it is just a silver Porsche, right? If you know what you're looking at, you know that it's not just a silver Porsche, but it's a Turbo S, and costs more than 3 of my houses, most likely, if not more so. I'm going to go with 9.75, split the difference, because you're not going to see a 993 Turbo S all that often. This is probably just a handful of times I've seen one, and now I'm driving it. If you go to Works Reunion or Pebble Beach, some of those other shows, it'll be around there. But yeah, based on rarity, based on what it is, I'll give it a 9.75, which is one of the better scores that I've given a car. So next score is daily driver. And honestly, this would be a really comfortable daily driver. It's so comfortable with the leather. I always say that, I'm not sure I would order leather in one of my own cars purely based on, a financial basis, but if I had the money, why not? They just feel much more classy, and just a more comfortable place to be. But you're going to have to, take care of that leather. It's for daily driving, which you wouldn't do in a 993 Turbo S. Leather may not be the way to go, but let's just take it at face value. 7.5. It's a little bit low, but it's very comfortable, and you have space in the back seats for luggage or briefcases, as well as the front. So yeah, it would be a nice daily driver, and it's fairly comfortable. If the suspension were a little bit more compliant over bumps, it might have a higher score, but as it is, it doesn't, and it gets a 7.5. So road trip, this is a road trip car. This is not a car you would almost even want to think about daily driving, considering its value and rarity, but for road trips, why not? As a PCA member, if I had the money to buy a car like this, a road trip maybe to Porsche Parade is exactly what I'd want to do with it. So the road trip, 8.25. For the same reasons that it got a 7.5 for daily driving. It doesn't score higher on road trip. Not the most comfortable car. It's just very comfortable for what it is. Now, fun factor. I'm loving this car. As I said earlier, I just really wish I could open this up and didn't have a line of cars in front of me and traffic around me. So I could really give it the gas and that turbo torque. Wow. Just can't get enough of that. That being said, the Porsche Cayman GT3, it's going to be more fun on a back road, I think, than this. This is not exactly what you would think is the ultimate back road weapon. It's just probably the best all-rounder that Porsche made back at this point. Oh, I love that engine. Looks like I need to work on smoothing my shifts out a little bit. So for fun factor, I'm also going to give this an 8.5. Not the most fun I've ever had behind the wheel of the Porsche, and I've got a feeling that even if the road opened up a bit, it probably still wouldn't be the most fun I've ever had in a Porsche. But it's up there. 8.5 is nothing to sneeze at. But what you have to keep in mind is that Porsche made these cars to be the ultimate sort of sports car that you could use anywhere, anytime. And while maybe in 2023 you're not going to be using your 993 Turbo S as a daily driver or to drive, in winter, in snow, you certainly could have, and I'm sure some people did back when they were new. Now, it's my 1 mile review. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, then subscribe to our channel, like this video. It helps us out and allows us to continue making content like this. All right, see you guys.